Hello, fellow board gamers. My name is Marcel. You know me as your Lord of the Board Games, and I had the chance to playtest Dante Invasion of Hell from CGS a lot of times the last weeks, and I did a first impression video for you, which I will link to you here and in the video description. But today I want to tell you about the Chronicle Phase, meaning the exploration phase where you travel through hell and you meet certain special persons, and how the exploration, meaning the Chronicle Phase, is linked to the Confrontation Phase. Because during the exploration phase, you do some very important decisions, you discover certain objects, and they carry over to the Confrontation Phase. And the second thing I want to tell you, I want to talk about a thing where Dante really excels. It's the heat of the battle. It's part of the Confrontation Phase. I don't want to talk a lot now. Stay tuned. We start right up with the action. What you see here is the Chronicle Phase, meaning the exploration part of Dante Invasion of Hell. We have here that short overview card, and this is the board where we explore the circles of hell. In this situation, we explore the limbo, the first circle, and I don't want to show you the setup concretely, but we have to talk about some things. I want to show you how this is meaningful for the Confrontation Phase, which is immediately after the Chronicle Phase. So here we have the exploration part. You see there are certain tiles from the Dark Forest, over the Hill of Virtue, Infernal Gates, Shores of Acheron, and the Pass of the Indolent. This is the Parsify miniature, which I took as a caravan marker. In the final game, there will be other material. And here you see there are the parts which will fill the board, the exploration board, after we discover new sites. Here is merely everything we can explore, meaning wound cards, path, discovery, artifact, and finding cards. And this is the caravan part. This is very, very important because everything that is placed here will affect our further play. Meaning cards that are played here, for example, are taken with us to the Confrontation Phase, and tokens here from the attributes that are missing will be not existent in the coming boss fight. So here we have Providence and Diligence cards, and that is the very important Arcana cards, which I will talk about in a few seconds. When we travel, we always start, of course, here, but I skipped some steps so that anything important happens. We have that Book of Chronicles. We see at Pass of the Indolent. I could read that out loud now, but I will skip that. Of course, you see it's work in progress because this is a prototype copy I do have here, and this is fluff. I like the fluff very much, but if you are not eager to read it, you could skip it, which I do not suggest, and just read this here. And this is the case where you and your team have to take a decision. You could either step away from the Indolent Angel, or you could interact with it. You decide with your group, and if you say, here, I want to interact with it, which is of course better, you would switch over the page and you would continue to read here. This is where you would step away. If you would interact with the angel, you have to solve or face an ordeal of prowess and willpower. Prowess and willpower. Every time you have to face an ordeal, you have to flip exactly 5 of these Arcana cards. And on the Arcana cards, you see this is text. Here is a placeholder effect, and here too, which will affect the Malefactor in the boss fight. And here in the upper left corner is the ordeal, which has to be solved. And you solve it. It's a level 4 difficulty, so you have to hide 4 of these Arcana cards. With 4 of the Providence cards, you have 4 of these Providence cards, as well as 4 of the Diligence cards. And you solve it by adding or subtracting the two kind of cards. So if I start, I could take the both tens and hide this arcana. I probably can take the 9 minus 4, that is 5, and probably the 7 minus 5 is 2. And now we have a problem, as both of them will not help us. So how can we solve the riddle? We can spend these tokens, willpower and prowess, of course. We can spend one, and we can probably put one of these arcana cards to the bottom of the deck and draw the next one. Remember, this token is now gone, and we will not have it in the upcoming confrontation phase. And now we have 6 plus 5. Still, that will not help us. But what we can also do, we can offer one of these arcana cards. Remember, these cards will go over to the confrontation phase, and we get 2 more of these cards. And now you see that I'm really lucky, as I can use the newly drawn 8 minus 5 to hide this arcana, and now I would have succeeded. I would read out the success, and I would get an artifact here, which is the angelic sword, a great sword, which can be used for the masonry and the artist. I will put it here because I carry it over to the confrontation phase, as well as the arcana and the arcana card. And now we would proceed to the Valley of the Indolent, which would lead us further through the Circle of Hell. And we would continue that now, put this here on the next board, inspect that tile, and we would move further until we have the first confrontation, which the Book of Chronicles will tell us. And you will see it in a few seconds. Now here you see the battle board of the confrontation phase, and I will not show you the complete setup with all its miniatures. I want to show you mainly what is different, what is really important, what makes the different from our gaming experience in the Chronicle phase, so how it affects the outcome of the Chronicle phase, how it affects the confrontation phase. But just in short, you see here the King Midas with its throne. Minos is the king with its malefactor cards. It is always two-sided. Here is the part of the card which will be activated in the malefactor turn. On the back side of the card is the counter attack, which happens when we throw our dice badly. We have a second kind of boss, which is the throne. It is situated here. It's a bit less cards, and we have these, let's call it event cards. Probably something else will happen here. Of course, we have our champions, we have certain furniture like pillars and arcs, and of course, here we have our spaces to move. This is the boss, this is our fierceness track, this is our task. Probably we will have another task later. We have finding cards, which will be shuffled now. And to start the game, 2 are randomly drawn and distributed among the heroes. Of course, there are also artifact cards. We get the Cardecus of Asclepius, and this is the first thing which we got from our Chronicle phase, is the angelic sword we had with our encounter 109, you remember? And we can select the mercenary or the artist to get that weapon. Here you see the character boards. I will not talk a lot of the character boards. 2 of these maneuver card spaces are covered in the beginning, so we have just 1 space. Here we have the different champions. Everyone starts with 6 health points, and of course a starting gear weapon or the artifact weapon in this case. Here you also have a very great card for the transition phase, but let us talk now about the outcome of the Chronicle phase, how it affects the start of the battle. You remember, here I have it, that we had to offer 1 Arcana card and we had to use one of these prowess tokens. This prowess token is gone completely. We cannot use it in our confrontation phase. It is just these 5 tokens left, which is the aggressive token. We can use it, discard it, and do 1 wound to the boss. 1 wound, which means one of these cards has to be discarded, which is very, very strong. These willpower tokens can be used to prevent a wound or a sin, which is also very, very strong. And these prowess tokens are used to recall a card. Probably I have played a card here and I can take it back and play another maneuver. So you see, these tokens are very valuable and you don't want to use them in the Chronicle phase. And here the Arcana card, which we put on the caravan board, is also used because this is now shuffled into that deck. In addition, 6 of these cards, this is the special rule for this boss, this is 6. In addition to this, we use it and we shuffle it into the King Minos boss deck. And again, these cards are now used if the Malefactor activates in the Malefactor turn, if he does a counter attack, and it also solves as a health point pool. So now I think we are ready to jump right into the heat of the battle to show you what is special upon Dante. You see a lot has changed on the table. This is because I jumped right ahead in the confrontation phase to show you where Dante really excels. And this is in the confrontation where there is a lot of cooperation, a lot of table talk and nearly no downtime. But let me show you in detail. But remember, this is just an example. I will not show you the whole turn, and I will show you mostly these 2 player boards, which is the artist and the devotee, because my arm is not long enough to manage all 4 player boards. When we start a turn, it's always the caravan turn first, and we need to manage us players, the caravan. First thing is the cleanup step, where we discard all maneuver cards on our player boards to the discard pile. In this case, there is also a sin card, which the artist resisted, so it is discarded too. I will not show you with these players, I told you. Then is the rebuild step, where every champion has to redraw to have 4 hand cards. And here I see this is a great card for the artist. Probably I can show you more in a few minutes. And the last thing is we have to manage the preparation step, which means everybody regenerates 3, except of poor devotee, which has internal bleedings, meaning she has to subtract 1 from the 3, which is 2. And now there is the taking action step. And this is where Dante is really, really great, where we are playing all together at the very same moment. Not exactly the very same moment, but let me show you what I mean. Probably we would start the turn here with the Outlaw, because he's sitting next to that beautiful arc. And opening the arc is a standard action which you pay with your damage here. So we would open the arc and get that beautiful Opoli finding cards, which we could prevent a vote. So we would store it here. And now we would want to attack. But with which character would we attack? Probably, let me show you how we could manage a sort of group attack. So let me pick that Outlaw card again. And you see, when the Outlaw card, when the Outlaw moves 1, you can move an additional area because he is sliding. So I will spend another cube here, move 1 area and an additional area because of the slide. Now we are in position to attack King Minos because the Outlaw is attacking with his bow, 3 dice, standard, in 1, 2, 3 spaces away. We always count spaces orthogonally. But we want to buff him. And this is the support character. And I told you we do play not alternating turns, but we play all together. Probably now the devotee would start and speak the word of salvation, where she or another champion that is up to 2 areas away receives Invigorate 2 and Inspired. We put that card here on an open slot. We would climb 0 spots up on the fierceness track, and another champion, which in our situation would be a nice idea if it is the Outlaw, gets 1 of these inspiration tokens and he would regain 2. And every time, and here you see everything is very much tied together, the devotee spoke that word of salvation to another character. Whenever you target another champion with 1 of your maneuver cards, you get Faith 1, which is very important because with this Faith token, she can heal other characters. So now we switch back to the Outlaw, which might be ready to attack with his longbow. And of course, he needs to play a maneuver card as well, which might be the Power Shock. He has to adjust himself to 2 spots on the fierceness track to the left, but he is already there. And now he can add 5 die 5 dice to the attack, meaning 3 for the bow plus 5 for the power shot. But we have to take a final look here on his character card. You see the guerrilla tactics. Ranged attack you make, receive a +2 dice bonus as long as you are at least 2 areas away from your last shot. And as you remember, I did travel from this area to this area, which is 2 areas. Probably we attacked last round, but even if we didn't, we managed to travel 2 areas, meaning we can add 2 more dice. And this is ridiculously good because we do attack with 10 dice now as the outlaw. And remember, we could also re-roll 1 die if we need to, and we have the inspiration token. But here is the result, which is a very, very good result. You see a lot of damage rolled, but sadly, we do have 3 of these misses, and 2 misses is always 1 counterattack. But we can now throw away our inspiration token, and with that inspiration token, you remember we got it from the Word of Salvation, we can re-roll any miss. So this is the re-roll, and this is awesome, awesome, awesome. It's so many hits. Let me count that. It's 4, it's 8, and it's 13 hits. 13 divided to 4 is 3 damage. So these cards, which are used as boss malefactor turn cards during the malefactor turn, as counterattack cards, also serve as health points. So it is discarded now. Discarded, and this is the way you deal damage to a boss. So what I also wanted to show you is how counterattacks work, but I couldn't, as the outlaw attacked too successful. But there are other champions on the board, like the mercenary and the artist. Of course, I could continue to attack with the outlaw and play with the devotee, but let's now assume that the artist did follow the actions of the other champions very closely. And before she acts, she is moving 1 space and another space, positioning behind King Minos. Positioning behind gives her a +2 dice as she is backstepping. And now I mentioned she did watch the outlaw closely, and she can now perform a performance maneuver, placing her card in the open spot, climbing on the fierceness track, as she has to assume the same fierceness points as it is on the power shot. And now she can copy a maneuver, assuming she got the same weapon, meaning 3 dice for the bow, 5 dice for the power shot, plus the backstep dice. And now she can attack Minos with a great attack, with a great maneuver. And this is ridiculously good. And again, I cannot show you how counterattacks work. So I will now cheat a bit and change this die to this bad skull. Remember, I could also use the text on the long bow to re-roll a die. Probably I would have done this now. And you see here, I would definitely have scored, wow, this is 5, 10, 11. With this die, it would have been 3 wounds. It would have been. But I want to show you how counterattacks work. 2 wounds, you remember, is 2 cards from the stack. But if you have a counterattack, the first card you take is flipped, and here I am playing the tackle. Before I play the tackle, you have to take a look on the mercenary card. What did I tell you about linked mechanics in this game? Here is the battle breath. Whenever a malefactor counterattacks, you gain invigorate 1, which means I have to push that cube up. And now here, Minos is moving 3, approaching the closest champion at any range. Of course, this is the closest champion. In this situation, he would also turn around because he was backstabbed. And if there are champions in this area, he would attack the fiercest one with 3 damage. So not very hard, this attack. And remember, I would have to discard a second card because I did 2 wounds. Okay. Now, of course, our caravan would continue to attack because you see there is a lot of open maneuver card slots, and the players do have a lot of vigor, so they can move, so they can use their weapons, and so they can use their slots. But for now, I wanted to show you the heat of the battle. So let us assume the caravan step is over, and I will show you how the malefactor turn works. In the malefactor's turn, we will activate every of these 3 boss piles once. So we start with Minos, which will do his haul action. He will check first if there are any champions in its area. It is the artist. Hold the fiercest of them. So he would take her, put it on his character card. With this miniature, we can also put her here, which signals that he is holding her. So this is not intended in the game, but I do it. If Minos, here we watch step 2, is holding any champion, face the farthest champion at any range, which is these 2 or this here. We can now select it here. They are both 3 steps away. And then, if Minos is holding any champion, face the farthest. Move 3 with trample 2 in a straight line. For every character or furniture piece that is trampled, deal 2 damage to each champion that is held. So that means he would go 1. I can show you how traps work. Here's a trap which was placed by the outlaw. A trap means that that he will receive a wound. So this card will be discarded. 2 and 3, he trampled, and the held champion, this champion is held, receives 2 damage. 1, 2. And now the card is discarded because of this wound effect, as you saw it. And now this was Minos' turn. We would jump here to the throne. Here you see the limbo throne. Here is a boss as well. Each champion standing on ground level receives 3 damage. There are 2 champions standing on the ground level, meaning the devotee and the outlaw are both receiving 3 damage. And Minos restores 1 health point for each champion that is not on ground level, which is of course the mercenary and the artist. And so I take 2 cards from the bottom of his deck. In this situation, it's also one of these Arcana cards, which you saw earlier did make it into the boss deck. And so he restores 2 health. So now there is a 3rd boss, which is Pacify. She will move to approaching the farthest champion at any range. The farthest champion are these 2. She goes here. Now she faces the least fierce champion, which is the mercenary. So she would turn around and watch him. And now she would launch, step 3, a thunderbolt, which will move right through here the poor outlaw, dealing 3 damage to him. 3 damage, see what happens, 3 damage. And he will also have to discard 2 of his maneuver cards. And now in this situation, he would need to take a wound card, which the devotee, as a martyr, could take to heal herself, but probably the best solution would be to spend these oboli card to prevent any wound from happening. In the situation that Pacify did not hit any champions, she will also let Minos restore another card. So you see, here is a lot of heat in the battle, a lot is happening. He's grappling characters, he's using them as a club, he's running around, and yeah, the battle is heating up. We are trying to diminish these piles of cards to win the battle, but for now, let's jump to my final thoughts. So this was my 2nd video for Dante Invasions of Hell. Please remember to watch my first video where you saw more about the confrontation part. This time I talked about the theme, and now I know more about the theme because I took some time and spent it with this Book of Chronicles, which you saw. And this Book of Chronicles leads us through the exploration phase, which we really like because we get to know a lot about the background story of the game. We travel the circles of hell. In this situation, it was Limbo. We met really interesting people like Julius Caesar, like this fallen angel, Saladin, and so on. And it was really great. And for all of you who don't like to read, It's very short passages of reading. You can also skip them if you like to the black printed part of the things, and there you take meaningful decisions. Meaningful decisions, that is very cool from my perspective, which carry over to the confrontation part. And very, very cool is the ordeals, I think. The ordeals are kind of riddles you have to solve, where you have these arcana cards and you have to solve them with the providence and the diligence cards it was. And if you manage to solve them, hide the arcana cards, you will have an easier confrontation part, as the arcana cards you have to offer will carry over and will be integrated to the Malefactor's boss deck, which is very bad for you, as the cards are played. We will talk about that in a few seconds. And they are additional health points. And the prowess, willpower, and aggressiveness tokens, you don't want to spend them either for solving the riddles, as you want to use them in the exploration, in the confrontation part. So this is a thing I really like very much about the Chronicle phase, that they are linked together. That it is very important to not spend these resources in the Chronicle phase, because you need them in the confrontation phase. So let's talk about confrontation. This is where Dante really excels, where it's really, really awesome, because I don't know any other board game, dungeon crawler or boss battler, where you have so much table talk, where you have so much cooperation, and in the same time, nearly no downtime. You talk with each other because you want to prepare your turn, their turn. You saw it with my devotee, which buffed the outlaw. The outlaw moved, attacked Minos. Then the artist jumped from behind, attacked 2, and the mercenary tried to tank. In its core, it is a hand management game with a tableau. You try to play as many maneuvers as possible. You have these management with the sin and the wound cards. You don't want to have these ones. But the big thing is, and this is the cooperative aspect, you do play simultaneous, meaning you don't alternate. You don't have any initiative track. You don't have to wait. You could play all at the same time. And this is so authentic. As in a real boss battler, you wouldn't wait for the devotee to buff. No, you will move while she is buffing. And here Dante is really, really great. And the positive side effect is nobody has to wait. So a very, very cool effect you need to know. And while we talked about the bosses, I did just experience 2 bosses, Parsify and Minos. They play very, very cool and very, very different. It's these deck system here with the cards, where this side of the card is used in the Malefactor turn. You can anticipate what the boss does, so you can prepare. And if you attack him and he counterattacks, here the backside, you don't know what happens. So this is 2 uses in 1 card. And the third use is, of course, the health points. And this is the profile of the boss. Every boss will have a unique profile, which is added through the arcana cards. I told you a few seconds ago, you don't want to offer these arcana cards because it makes the boss stronger and it makes him less predictable. Very, very cool. So there is a lot of things I really, really liked. The exploration, I like it more and more, and I can't wait to explore more of Hell. And of course, the confrontation. If there is one thing me and the people I tested the game didn't like that much, it was the one character which is called Devotee, Mills the Paladin. Of course, she's a cool character and she's definitely necessary, as there is no other character who is that good at healing and buffing and preparing the other people's turn. But this is also a problem if you do play with groups and players who don't like these supportive characters, who always want to do damage and do tanking tasks. And I always had to play the devotee, and the devotee has that problem that she is mostly in the backyard preparing the assault of other players. And there is another problem, which is the faith tokens. She gathers faith tokens through her altruism passive mechanics, which is really, really cool. And with these faith tokens, she can heal. And if she saves up to 4, she can remove wounds. But she can't do it on her own board for herself, but just for other champions. And that's a bit bad because you gather a lot of wound cards on her and this limits your actions. So in the end, you will be very, very limited with that character. And I would wish, that would be my wish to the designers, that you change it so you can use the faith tokens also on her. So this was my second video to Dante Invasion of Hell. I am awaiting your comments right now. Do ask me everything you want to know, probably for the next video. If you liked what you saw, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you will not miss any further videos I will do for Dante and all the others. Thank you for attending and see you the next time. Marcel, your Lord of the Board Games.